Hello everyone, am I audible to all of you? Just write it in the comment section that we are audible, or like I am audible and visible. I think I am. Fine. So everything is running smoothly. I have checked it and we can continue now. We can start. So today is the third lecture and today we have to cover Vedic period, as you can see it here, right? So this is the third lecture. We have already done two lectures, lecture 1 and lecture 2, that is okay. So Darshana, Prince, they are able to see me. So we have already done the first lecture, which was sources in Stone Age, and the second lecture, which was Chalcolithic and IVC. So audio is, everything is fine. Cool. So now this is Vedic period. So before we are doing this, again, there are certain questions, certain people, they keep on asking that, sir, should we go back and watch the orientation lecture 1, lecture 2 and then come back and watch lecture 3? Again, all the lectures are standalone. So even if you're watching lecture 3 right now, it's totally fine. You don't need to go back and watch lecture 1 and 2 right now. You can go back and watch it like after this class is done. Fine. So we have to talk about Vedic period. Before we do that, let's see certain things. There was a doubt yesterday which was asked by a certain person, which is related to AD, BC, BCE, how all these things, or what does these particular dates mean. And actually, even though it's not directly related to, let's say, history perspective, but again, we need to know it. Why we need to know it? Because we are currently in ancient India. We are currently doing ancient history plus art and culture. And when we talk about post-modern period, if you talk about post-modern period, where we will go, I think in next to next lecture. So post-modern period is 200 BCE to 300 AD. So we use these kind of words, BCE, AD, and we need to know what is the difference between these terms. Like we are using BC, BCE, AD, or CE. So this is AD, which is also known as Anno Domini, and this is ANNO, Anno Domini, and then this is BC, which was earlier known as before Christ. Before Christ, CHRIST. So Anno Domini, it is also like some people also say that this is after death. So these two words, AD or BC, reference frame is this is year 0, and anything after this is AD, and anything before this is BC. That was what used to happen earlier. So this is E, earlier what used to happen. But as you can understand here, Anno Domini, before Christ, they have religious connotation. Both these words, they have religious connotation. We are associating it with a particular religion. It's not like, although Christianity is the largest religion in the world, if I'm not wrong, but it's the largest religion. It's not the only religion in the world. We shouldn't be like undermining the sensitivities of other religion. So that's why, to do away with this religious connotation, there were these terms which were coined, BCE and CE, before Common Era and Common Era. So rather than BC, people now use BCE, and rather than AD, people use CE. So hope it makes some sense here. Hope you are understanding what we are discussing. So keep this in mind. This will help you because we have to talk about BC and AD. So now let's move on. Certain questions to ponder upon or ponder about, because we have talked about certain things, and these kind of questions, I will tell you how they can be asked in prelims as well. At the same time, they can be asked in mains as well. But we are right now more focused about prelims. So they can ask you this, manuscript and inscription. You keep on hearing about them here, there, everywhere. What is the basic difference between manuscript and inscription? Anyone, any idea? You can write it in the comment section. Darshana, Prince, Marina and others. Do you have any idea? If in one line you have to define, and this is the second question. This question is also important because NCERT talks about it. Anything which NCERT talks about becomes important. Once we have done these questions, which is in a way is a revision of the previous lectures, we can move forward. Things will be much more clearer. So what do you think is the basic difference between manuscript and inscription? Any idea, anything you want to add to this? So manuscript is something which is written on a soft surface, palm leaves. We have talked about it when we were talking about literary sources, when we were talking about lecture 1, which was sources. There we have talked about manuscript written on soft surfaces, palm leaves. So if rain comes, or let's say I do foo 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 foo, so it can go away. So you can lose manuscript very easily. Inscription is done on hard surfaces. And again, NCERT talks about it. I think class 6th, 7th NCERT, they talk about these terms. So yeah, like Pradeep is saying, and Marina is saying, Kiran is saying, Aarti is saying. So please remember these things which these people are saying. Manuscript written on palm leaves, inscription written on hard surfaces. Fine. Now the second question is this question. Why Paleolithic people didn't adopt sedentary lifestyle? Now this is important from mains perspective also, they can give you a 10 marker. But here we are more focused on pre, because we have to clear pre, then only we can write mains, right? So how they can ask you this particular question? They can give you the statements like Paleolithic people didn't adopt sedentary lifestyle because 1, 2, 3. Which of the following statements are correct, or are not correct, or is are not correct, or is are correct? So you have to understand this particular thing. Why Paleolithic people? Everybody wants a settled life. Well, mostly, like, we cannot generalize everybody. Some people like nomadic lifestyle. I used to like nomadic lifestyle, from like roaming from here to there, but after a certain point of time, you do want to settle down. So let's assume that not all Paleolithic people wanted a nomadic lifestyle. You can see how cute these people are. So if some of them wanted sedentary lifestyle, what stopped them from adopting a sedentary lifestyle? What do you think is the reason behind it? Like, why they didn't adopt sedentary lifestyle? Any specific reason you can think about? NCERT talks about 4 specific reasons. I will give you 10 seconds and then I will do my bol bachan. That means I have to speak. But again, you can think about it. The more you think about it, in exam, if they ask questions, you will be able to retain it in a much better manner. Just a second. Okay, so Aarti is talking about agriculture. See, the 4 reasons why Paleolithic people didn't adopt a sedentary lifestyle. Why these guys were not settling at one place. First, as we have discussed earlier, these people, they are hunters. These people are hunters. So animal moves from place to place. It's not like animals are staying at one place. They move from place to place. Since these guys are like hunters, so they have to also move from place to place. Animals moving from place to place, and they have to hunt these animals. So that's why they have to move from place to place. Move from place to place. So this is one reason. Second point, these people, everybody, not only these people, any person, they want water. Like Aruna was saying, so many points they have written. Marina is saying they are hunter-gatherers. So many answers they have written, you can see in the chat section. So second point is, they want water. Water. Rivers are seasonal. Even now, it's not like all the rivers are perennial in nature. Himalayan rivers, when you talk about Himalayan rivers, you see them as perennial. But most of the rivers are seasonal by nature. The southern rivers, why they don't have, like when we talk about the productivity per se of the land of North and South India, and why there is so much population in the Gangetic plain because of the very fertile soil. Why they are fertile soil? Because they have perennial rivers which contributes to alluvial soil. So again, renewing of alluvial soil, khadar, bhangar, you must have heard about these terms in geography. So water, seasonal rivers, they need to drink water. In search of rivers, they have to go from place to place. So this is the second reason. Third reason, they have limited resources. Let's say they are at a particular place. They are at one place. So if they stay at one place, they will exploit or consume the resources of that particular place. So to avoid that, they have to move from place to place, right? To avoid consuming all the resources of a particular place. So this is the third reason. To avoid consuming all the resources. And again, why we have to understand these points? Because in pre, they can directly ask you, why Paleolithic people didn't adopt a sedentary lifestyle? It's not like everybody wants a nomadic lifestyle. Some of them may have wanted a, sedentary lifestyle. So to avoid consuming all the resources at a specific place, you can write it. I will show you the points. Fourth point is, they are also gatherers. They are also gatherers, right? So if they are gatherers, fruits does not happen everywhere at the same time. Mango and oranges, they don't ripen at the same time. So different fruits will happen at different times, at different season, or in different season. You can use the preposition whatever you want. Hope you're understanding. There is a saying, you have to understand what I'm saying. Like the words sometimes will not explain everything. You have to understand the feelings. So fruits will be happening at different times, and trees will be bearing fruits in different seasons. And that's why if they are gatherers, they have to move from place to place in different season. So these are the 4 reasons. Keep these points in mind. This is an example of a manuscript written on a soft surface. So these are 4 reasons given by NCERT, Honorable NCERT, and anything which is there in NCERT, class 6 to 12th NCERT is important. Now again, when I have said class 6 to 12th NCERT, it doesn't mean you have to go and read all class 6 to 12th NCERT. You don't have to do that. That is my work when we are doing this crash course where I'll be meeting you for around 100 days or so. I'll be telling you all these things, the things which are important in these NCERT. So you don't have to do anything. I have told you again and again and again and again. What you have to do apart from this crash course, just solve more and more mocks. And if you get additional information on a particular topic, let's say Vedic period or IVC, just add them in your notes. That's it, nothing more. There is no limit to reading. You have to solve questions like this particular question, which is again based on our previous lectures which we have done. And again, I want you to do this question, not for you to solve this particular question. I want you to do option elimination here. Based on whatever limited knowledge you have, we had 2 proper lectures. One was the orientation session. Whatever option, if you are able to deduce, even like sir, answer will be between C or D, A or C, that is also a winner for me. So try this particular question and tell me what according to you is the answer of this particular question. Just have a look at this question. Consider the following pairs, and they have talked about historical places well known for, and you have to tell which of the following pairs are correctly matched. Let me refresh the chat part. Whoever gives the answer first, I will just like I've not got any answer up until now. Okay, so 10 more seconds and then we will discuss this question. Even if you're not getting the answer, even if you're getting, let's say, 2 options, that is fine. So anything you want to add to this, or shall I tell you the answer? See, understand one thing. In the previous lecture, we have talked about Chalcolithic culture. And there we have talked about Jodhpura, Ganeshwar. I have shown you the map. Your work was to see the map again and again, see the lecture again and again. Ganeshwar is a Chalcolithic site. Ganeshwar, Jodhpura culture, Ahar, Kaitha culture. So Ganeshwar, if it's a Chalcolithic site, it has to have copper artifacts, because that is the basic meaning of Chalcolithic culture, that they are residing in a place where we find copper. Vinay has given the answer. So that means third has to be correct. Option elimination. Hard work, smart work, this is smart work. Even if you don't know anything, let's say you have never heard of Chandraketu Gad before. I believe that you have never heard of Chandraketu Gad before. Even then, many people will be able to solve this question. So let's say we know third is correct. We should know, because if you have done the previous lecture which was on Chalcolithic and IVC, you should know that Ganeshwar is copper artifacts. Then you can eliminate A and B. You are left with C and D, 3 only, 2 and 3. Now Chandraketu Gad, Burja home, you don't even need to know whether they had rock cut shrine or not. Burja home, Guf Karal, we have talked about it when we were talking about Neolithic period. And we have discussed that they used to do pit dwelling, because that place, Kashmir, is very cold. Just like you people are very hot, Kashmir is very cold. So they used to like dig pits and they used to stay in them. So rock cut shrine is not associated with them. Rock cut shrine example is Ajanta. This is an example of rock cut shrine. Ellora. So these are rock cut shrine. Burja home. Again, even if you had no idea about it, that doesn't matter. Now you're left with C and D. You should have come to no issues, Marina. That's totally fine. If this is your first class, just remember, if similar kind of question comes, don't do mistake in UPSC pre-2025. Now Chandraketu Gad, it's in Bengal. I will show you the location. Terracotta, what is terracotta? Just remember the meaning of these terms. Fired clay. Even if you would have got C or D, let's say, you would have told me in the initial part that C or D, I am confused, sir. That would have been it. Nothing more than that. So Chandraketu Gad, it is in Bengal, fired clay. Terracotta is fired clay. By using, like, terracotta art is very famous, and in generally port towns and even in different areas. When we'll talk about temple architecture, you will see in certain areas sandstone will be used, certain areas marbles will be used, certain areas terracotta will be used. So these things vary from place to place. Terracotta was found in or was used in Chandraketu Gad for making different kind of arts, including pottery and others. So second point is correct. again, my intention by giving this question was not that you should be knowing about it. Just one additional information I wanted to tell you about Chandraketu and I wanted you to come at C or D. Fine. So don't worry about if you have not got this question correct, but this is Jodhpura Ganeshwar culture. We have seen this map multiple number of times when we were discussing Chalcolithic and IVC yesterday. Who are like attending this lecture for the first time, don't worry about it. Just once this lecture is done, you can go back and watch the Chalcolithic and IVC lecture. So Chandraketugarh, it is located in Bengal. You can have a look at this. I have already told you, Burja home we have discussed, that was used for, that is a Neolithic site used for pit dwelling. Fine. So here is Chandraketugarh. It's very close to Bangladesh and it's in West Bengal, and here you have terracotta art. Sometimes when you solve these questions, rather than like reading 100 books, it's much more productive when you are solving these kind of questions, when you are attending these kind of sessions. So don't read many books, solve as many mocks as possible. So Chandraketugarh, West Bengal, terracotta art, remember these things because UPSC has asked them in previous question in PYQ. That's it. Nothing more, nothing less. So now let's come to the issue of the day. And what is the issue of the day? Vedic period. We have to talk about Vedic age, 1500 to 600 BC. And here again, different scholars will give different date. This particular date is in convergence with Upinder Singh's ancient and early medieval India. Upinder Singh ma'am, we have talked about it. Upinder Singh ma'am is Manmohan Singh's daughter, very famous Delhi University professor, and her book is one of the most renowned book for ancient and early medieval India. Upinder Singh's ancient and early medieval India, that says Vedic age 1500 to 600 BC and 1500 to 1000 BC is your early Vedic period and 1000 to 600 BC is your later Vedic period. So we'll talk about it. So before we go and read more about early Vedic period and later Vedic period, let's do a comparative analysis. Comparative analysis means I will just write here, let's say EVP. Fine. And we'll do this. This you have to do because in UPSC Mains 2024, they have asked a question based on comparative analysis, which I had taught earlier in my earlier lectures at different places. So EVP, LVP. EVP is early Vedic period, LVP is later Vedic period. We'll talk about it. Let's talk about each and every attribute associated with them. You can also make a chart like this once you are when you are making notes on these topics. So EVP early Vedic period, LVP later Vedic period. Fine. Second point. Time period 1000 BC to 1500 BC to 1000 BC. So time period is 1500 to 1000 BC. Once we are done with this comparative analysis, your concept on Vedic period will be crystal clear. Later Vedic period, time period is 1000 to 600 BC. Right here also BC so that you don't get confused. 1000 BC to 600 BC according to again Upinder Singh ma'am. Fine. Then what else are the differences between them? Third point. These people, the early Vedic period people, they are living around Sapta Sindhu river. They are living around Sapta Sindhu river. What are Sapta Sindhu rivers? Any idea, anyone? What are Sapta Sindhu rivers? Sapta Sindhu river, we have discussed this. Even you can take a guess if you have attending this class for the first time. What are Sapta Sindhu rivers? Sapta Sindhu? Sapta Sindhu is Indus, 5 tributaries of Indus which you still have, and then there is one river, Saraswati or Gaggadhaka river, which is no more and we are still searching for it. So Sapta Sindhu river, early Vedic period people, they used to reside around Sapta Sindhu river. Later Vedic period people, they used to reside around Gangetic plains. How it happened, we'll talk about it. Gangetic plains. Before that, let me show you certain things. So we will make a chart. We will do this chart. Via this chart, your whole Vedic period will be done. But let me show you maps. because the more images you see, the better your retention ability will be. So early Vedic period people, forget the date, ignore the date, focus on the area. This area, so this is Sapta Sindhu river area. In fact, this is the same area around which, not exactly same, but similar area around which Indus Valley people also used to live. That will lead to different theories, we'll talk about it later on, but they are somewhat moving eastward, these early Vedic period people, around Sapta Sindhu river. What will happen by the time later Vedic period arrives, again, ignore the dates are somewhat changed now. So, by the time of later Vedic period, they are settling around this area, the Gangetic Plain area. Now the question is why? Why initially they didn't settle or came around this particular region? Why later on they settled around the Gangetic Plain? What is the reason behind it? So the reason is, anybody wants to give a reason? Jhelum, Chenab, Ravi, Byas, Satluj, like Vinay is saying. Anybody wants to give a reason why in later Vedic period people are settling around, majorly around Gangetic Plains, while in the early Vedic period people were settling around the Sapta Sindhu river? What is the major reason? What changed? What forced people to shift from one place to another? We should always have these questions. Otherwise, we'll be mugging up facts. And history, my major aim is to make you understand all these things rather than you mugging it up. Why they shifted to Gangetic Plains? Why they didn't shift earlier? Any specific reason you want to give? I will give you 20 seconds. Vinay is saying due to agriculture. Anybody else you want to add something to it? See, understand one thing. So initially when they were settled around the Sapta Sindhu river, this intermediate region along with Gangetic Plain was covered with forest. And what happened? By the time later Vedic period arrived, 1200 BC, iron was discovered. So using these iron tools, this particular area, the forested area of like Gangetic Plain included, they were cleared using the iron tools. These iron tools were not there in the early Vedic period. They arrived by the end of early Vedic period or the later part of end of early Vedic period or the early part of the later Vedic period. And that's why people are settling around Gangetic Plains now, because they have the iron tools and they will use these iron tools to clear the forest. So please understand this. And why they are settling around Gangetic Plains? Because this Gangetic Plain area, we have discussed it multiple times, or maybe you are hearing it for the first time from me, that this is the area, this Gangetic Plain area, this is not one of the most fertile area in India, this is one of the most fertile area in the world. And that's why even today you see in this like Gangetic Plain area, which comprises UP, Bihar, West Bengal, some portion of West Bengal, it is one of the most densely populated area in the country because the productivity of agriculture is so high. So please keep that in mind. And here, like history and geography, they both are merging. Now let's go back to our comparative analysis sheet. We understood why they shifted to Gangetic Plains. We have our concept somewhat clear. Did you understand? People, you can write it in the comment section. Did you understand why later Vedic period people settled around the Gangetic Plain area? The people who did not know it earlier. Some of you may have known it earlier. Just write yes and I will move on, and do it fast. Did you? Very good, yeah, cool. So early Vedic period people, mainly pastoralist. Pastoralist means, when we'll see the slides later on, you will realize that most of these early Vedic period people, they were fighting over cattle. In fact, when we talk about the sources, which will be Vedas, so in Veda you will see that Veda talks about different battles which has been fought over cattle. Now, when we talk about Veda, before we do this comparative analysis more, let me tell you something interesting, and then we'll again come back and do the comparative analysis. This is the most important part of this lecture, this comparative analysis part. I can show you the slides later on, but once you understand this, everything, whatever will come next will be very clearer to you. So understand one thing, when we are talking about IVC, our major information comes from archaeological sources, their drainage system, their great bath, etc., etc., because we have not been able to decipher their script. When we talk about Vedic period, most of the information we have comes from literary sources. The Vedic period 1500 to 600 BC, most of the information we have comes from literary sources. And the major literary source which gives us the information about Vedic period is Vedas, which are also known as Shruti. Shruti. Shruti can be the name of your friend or something. Shruti. So some people believe that Vedas are authorless. Some people also believe that they are the voice of the god. So Vedas are Shruti, Puranas are Smriti. So most of the information which you are getting or which you are extracting about Vedic period rather, you are getting it from the Vedas. Fine. Now, what are different parts of Veda? If somebody asks you, what are different parts of Veda, what will you say? Hope I made myself clear. I am asking, what are the different parts of Veda? You can write it in the comment section. Make it as interactive as possible. The more you interact, the more you think about a particular question, the better you will become in that subject. So we have discussed one very interesting thing. When we were talking about sources, lecture 1, we have talked about different sources, archaeological sources, literary sources. And here we have discussed that IVC, most of our information comes from archaeological sources, drainage system, this and that, because we have not been able to decipher the script. Tamil Nadu CM MK Stalin has announced $1 million. So maybe, and now we have also artificial intelligence, chat GPT. So fingers crossed, hopefully we'll be able to decipher it. But up until now, major information of IVC, archaeological sources, major information of Vedic period, literary sources. I asked you, what are different parts of Veda? So what will you say? What are different parts of Veda? Anyone? Can you, do you want to write something in the comment section? What are different parts of Veda? Okay, so Vinay has written the answer. So generally what happens, whenever we talk about different parts of Veda, most of the people, they talk about Rig Veda, Sham Veda, Yajur Veda, Athar Veda. These Vedas they talk about. Rig Veda, Sham Veda, Yajur Veda, Athar Veda. No, these are 4 different Vedas. Each Veda has 4 parts. And first part is Samhita. Second part is Brahmana. Third part is Aranyaka. And fourth part is Upanishad. So there are 4 parts of each Veda, that is Samhita, Brahmana, Aranyaka and Upanishad. And since Upanishad is the last part of the Veda, it is also known as Vedanta, Ved plus Anta. So please keep that in mind. So now you have, each Veda has 4 parts and we have 4 Vedas, which you just said in the comment section. Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Sham Veda and Athar Veda, right? SBAU. Very good, Pradeep. So Pradeep has given you a mnemonic how you can remember these 4 parts of Vedas, that is SBAU. Fine. What is the difference between Vedas and Puranas? Vedas are Shruti literature, which is said to be authorless. Puranas are in a way like it comes under Dharma Sutra and Dharma Shastra, which are an interpretation of Vedas. They are interpreting Vedas in a certain way, plus there are certain more additions in Puranas. So they are different things. They are not a part of Vedas, Tashi. Fine, they come under Smriti literature. They are different. Some of the Puranas, they also interpret Vedas. But again, Upanishad, if you talk about any Upanishad, it has to be a part of Veda. That is not the case with Purana. Please remember this. So each Veda has 4 parts. So all in all, 4 Vedas will have how many parts? Each Veda has 4 parts. So 4 Vedas will have how many parts? You also have to do CSAT. Four Vedas, bro, each Veda 4 parts. So 4 Vedas will have 16 parts, right? Now here comes the different other logic. When we talk about 16 parts, that means Rig Vedic Samhita will be there, Rig Vedic Brahmana, Rig Vedic Aranyaka, Rig Vedic Upanishad. Same way, you have Sam Veda, Sam Vedic Samhita, Sam Vedic Brahmana, Sam Vedic Aranyaka, Sam Vedic Upanishad. So this way you will have 16 parts, like Tashi Marina and Sri Devi said. So please remember this. When we talk about the oldest Veda, most of the people that say Rig Veda is the oldest Veda. Aarti also said 60. Most of the people say Rig Veda is the oldest Veda. That information is not totally correct, because according to different scholars like Max Muller, and which has been like substantiated, that evidence has been substantiated by Upinder Singh ma'am in her book, Rig Vedic Samhita has been written in the early Vedic period. Why I told you all these different parts? Because you need to know the difference. You need to know these parts. UPSC is asking different things related to, like they have in UPSC Mains 2024, they have asked this question, and generally what happens, they extract pre-questions also out of means information. Plus, when you're doing this comparative analysis, your concept is getting better and better, and that will help you in option elimination when you're solving pre-questions. So Rig Vedic Samhita is written in early Vedic period, and the rest 15 parts, they are written in later Vedic period. Now here in the fourth point, we have written that in early Vedic period, people were mainly pastoralists. They were fighting over cattle. When I will show you the next slides or subsequent slides, you will see how there are different namings like Duhitri, Gaveshna, how people are known from, like associated with cattle or associated with cows, and how they have been named. But agriculture importance increased in later Vedic period. Agriculture's importance increased in later Vedic period. And again, can you take why agriculture's importance increased? Any idea, any guesses? Like we are talking about early Vedic period, they are mainly fighting over cattle. But agriculture's importance increased in later Vedic period. Take a guess. We have discussed about it. You know it, but you don't want to say it. But you have to say it. So take a guess why in later Vedic period agriculture's importance increased. What could be the reason? Gaveshna, search of cattle. Very good, Pradeep. What could be the reason that agriculture's importance increased in later Vedic period? The more you think about it, the more you deduce things, the more you will be able to remember all these points. They are settled at one place, as Vinay is saying. That is actually a very valid point. The second point is, remember what we have discussed here. See the previous point. They are settled around Gangetic Plain area. Gangetic Plain area, we have discussed, this is not one of the most fertile areas in our country. It is one of the most fertile area in the world, and that's why agriculture's importance increased. Fine. So these are 5 points. Let's do some more points. The more conceptual clarity you get, the better you will be becoming in even remembering the factual points. So now let us write the sixth point. We have written 5 points. Let's write as many references as possible so that you can understand things in a better manner. So if we talk about the sixth point, the sixth difference, see, understand one thing. There is a concept. Let me go to the next slide. Let me tell you certain things. So here we are talking about Vedas. Let me tell you one more thing, because all these things, the more you know it. See, there is a concept of ownership. Ownership means land ownership concept. Land belongs to whom? And there are 3 basic concepts associated with land ownership. That first concept is individual ownership, land is mine. Second concept is royal ownership, that land belongs to the king. And third concept is community ownership, that land belongs to us as a whole. In tribal areas, even now you can see this community ownership concept. So please understand this. I'm just writing it for you. And we will be deducing that in early Vedic period, which kind of ownership they were like having. So land ownership. Just a second. So the light has gone. The light has come back. So yes, land ownership concept rather. Fine. So there are 3 concepts associated with land ownership. Remember this will help you in pre, in mains, in optional, everywhere. So land ownership, first is individual ownership. Land is mine. Second is royal ownership. Land belongs to the king. In Mughal period, many of the foreigners who came to our country, they believed that royal ownership was predominant. Light chala gaya, aa gaya. Thank you. So land belongs to the king. And the third part is community ownership. That land belongs to us as a whole. We'll talk about Mughals also, and we'll talk about what NCERT is saying. Fine. So community ownership. In tribal community, you can still see community ownership. I was in Arunachal for an appreciable period of time, and even in certain areas where they practice shifting agriculture, they have this community ownership concept up until now. So individual ownership, royal ownership, community ownership. Now think about it. In early Vedic period, if I tell you to take a guess, which kind of land ownership they had, and in later Vedic period, we'll guess later. First of all, let's focus on early Vedic period. Which kind of ownership you think they must have had? Take a guess, bro. It's not like there is a 1/3 negative marking right now for taking a guess. You can take a guess, whatever you feel like. That in early Vedic period had a royal ownership, individual or community, whatever comes in your mind, just write it down. The more you think about these things, the better it is for you, as I have said again and again. What? 10 seconds and then I will continue. Very good. So I have got the answer. Aarti, Marina, Tashi, Pradeep, everybody is talking about community ownership, and that is actually correct. So again, if we come to the comparative analysis part, in early Vedic period, community ownership was dominant. It's not like there was no individual ownership, etc. Community ownership was dominant. Why it was dominant? Again, let's connect the dots. Here, people are fighting over cattle. Land is still not a very precious commodity because Sapta Sindhu River, in the 5 tributaries, Saraswati and Ghaggar Hakar River, they are fertile, but they are nothing compared to Gangetic Plains, with due respect to Sapta Sindhu region. Because we have discussed here, Gangetic Plain, this area, it is not one of the most fertile areas in India, it is one of the most fertile areas in the world, and that's why when we will come to later Vedic period, individual ownership concept will gain traction. That land is mine. Earlier people were fighting, individual ownership will gain traction. Earlier people were fighting over cattle. Now, by the time later Vedic period arrives, people will start fighting over land because land is a very, very, very precious commodity. So again, we are trying to understand things not by mugging it up, but by deducing it. Okay, so community ownership dominant in early Vedic period, individual ownership will gain traction in later Vedic period. Hope I'm making some sense here. These are very important points. You have to understand this. Only then you will be able to understand other points and you won't need to mug up anything. Fine. So this is the 6th point. What are the other differences which we can talk about? What is the 7th point when we are separating early Vedic period and later Vedic period? So we have talked about that in there are 16 parts of 4 Vedas. Rig Vedic Samhita is written in the early Vedic period and rest 15 parts in later Vedic period. So if you talk about the 7th point, Verna system. So earliest reference, if you talk about the earliest reference of Verna system, that is there in the Purusha Shukta hymn of Rig Vedic Samhita. So you get a reference of Verna system. Verna system is Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. So earliest reference of Verna system, you get it in the Purusha Shukta hymn of Rig Vedic Samhita. Earliest reference of Verna system is there. But Verna system is not firmly established. In fact, there are many people who says that early Vedic period society was an egalitarian society, everybody was equal, this and that. We'll talk about that and we'll also try to understand why it was not exactly an egalitarian society according to Upinder Singh and other scholars. So earliest reference of Verna system, you find it in earliest reference of Verna system is there. And let me erase the 3rd part too so that we can write it in a better manner. My handwriting is like a doctor, so pardon me for that. So earliest reference of Verna system, that is there in the Purusha Shukta hymn. Purusha Shukta hymn of Rig Vedic Samhita. Rig Vedic Samhita, which was written in the early Vedic period. Purusha Shukta hymn of Rig Vedic Samhita, they talk about Verna system. Fine. But again, if we talk about this thing in detail, because this is important. So what we have, generally when we talk about Verna system, we have Brahman, we have Kshatriya, we have Vaishya, and then we have Shudra. Right? This is the Verna system which we have. Shudra is at the bottom level. But according to this Verna system, which was there in Purusha Shukta hymn of Rig Vedic Samhita, they did not use the word Kshatriya. Instead of Kshatriya, they used the word Rajanya. So Brahman, Rajanya, Vaishya and Sudra. Please remember this, they have used the word Rajanya instead of Kshatriya. Fine. So earliest reference of Verna system, we are finding it in early Vedic period, but Verna system will become firmly established in later Vedic period. Firmly established. Firmly established. Fine. Firmly established, and Brahman is at the top, Kshatriya, then Vaishya, then Shudra. In fact, there are so many references in later Vedic texts and other books which shows the conditions of these people. They are deteriorating. Like I will give you just one quote. You don't have to write it anywhere because this is a very controversial quote and a very sad quote which is written in later Vedic texts and other books later on, like after later Vedic texts and other period. there is a quote related to Shudras, that Shudra is at the beck and call of others, Shudra can be made to rise at will, Shudra can be beaten at will. All these kind of statements which you see in later Hindu texts, that make you realize that, okay, Varna system is like becoming firmly established, and the people who are at the bottom of the ladder, they are at a very precarious scenario and not in a good way. Anyway, precarious is a negative word. So yes, hope you are understanding. Varna system firmly established. Now the next point which we have to talk about and which you have to understand is the condition of woman. And that also we have to understand, we don't have to mug it up. So if you talk about the eighth difference between early Vedic period and later Vedic period, so what is that eighth difference? So condition of woman, if I ask you, take a guess, condition of woman is better in early Vedic period or later Vedic period? And why? If you feel like condition of women is better in early Vedic period than later Vedic period. Okay, so there was one student in the last lecture, Pradeep, who said that either use white background or black background. So I looked for both the backgrounds. White is too too simple. Black is too pompous. So this is the middle ground, but I think you can see the things. So yeah, just wanted to address that. So let's talk about that point. Yes. So condition of woman is better in early Vedic period or later Vedic period, or you think that, sir, the condition of woman is always in a bad condition only? So what do you think? Whatever you think, you can write it here or you can just talk about it. Pradeep has given the answer. Darshana has given the answer. So yes, condition. Even there are many scholars, there are many historians who say that in early Vedic period, the society was egalitarian, men and women were equal. Then Upinder Singh ma'am, she says, and I keep on quoting her because believe me, once you read her book, you can read her book later on in your free time once the prelims and everything is done. If you don't have history optional, you don't need to read her book right now. That is not needed. So there is a very famous quote of Upinder Singh ma'am related to subordination of women. So what she says is subordination of women. Even if I don't write it here, I will just tell you. She says that subordination of women is a known feature of almost all historical societies of the world. The difference is, or the issue here is degree of subordination, up to which level woman has been subordinated. So if we come back and talk about subordination of women concept, and we'll also try to answer the question why. So subordination of women is less here. Subordination of women, as you can understand, as we have just discussed, this is a known feature. We are not saying this. Our words have no value, believe it or not. The words, you have to quote the authors or you have to say who has said this. So Upinder Singh ma'am, she has said this, that subordination of women is a known concept of almost all historical societies of the world. The issue is, or the point is, degree of subordination. So subordination of women was less here in early Vedic period. Subordination of women lesser in early Vedic period, but it will become more in later Vedic period. Again, we have to answer why. Subordination of women less increases. Subordination increases. Why the condition of women deteriorated in later Vedic period? Substantiate it with reason. If I ask you, okay, fine. Upinder Singh ma'am is saying that the condition of women is better in early Vedic period and it is not so better in later Vedic period. Why? Why? What changed? There has, we have discussed certain points, and in these points only the answer is hidden. So you have to see and you have to think what happened. Why the condition of women deteriorated in later Vedic period? What will you say? Welcome, Pradeep. They were active participant in society and educated. Darshana has given Sabha and Samiti. Take a guess. What do you think? Why the condition of women deteriorated in later Vedic period? Again, let's go back. We have talked about so many points. This is the eighth difference between early Vedic and later Vedic period. So what we are discussing, that in early Vedic period, people were mainly pastoralist. So there are works which are divided between men and women. So let's say woman is doing, there is a word called she is extracting milk out of a cow. Then the man will be going and he will be looking for pasture. So work are almost equally divided. But what will happen in later Vedic period? Iron tools have been discovered. Using these iron tools, the forest of Gangetic plains have been cleared, and agriculture is happening on a mass level, which will further lead to surplus production and second urbanization in 6th century BC. So now you are seeing the work of men is increasing manyfold, because these are very laborious work, and men's activity increases according to Upinder Singh ma'am, and because of which subordination of women decreases. This you can also understand from current society. Just take an example. Let's say in your family, your sister is earning somewhere, she is working in an IT sector or somewhere. You will see, directly or indirectly, you will see that she is getting more respect compared to a girl in your same family who is not working anywhere, who is just like, a housewife or just doing the household chores. This is a very, very sad reality. So that's how you can understand things. The person or the people who are doing more work, they are getting more respect. Whether it is a good thing or bad thing, I don't know. Misunderstood in individual ownership and Verna system. Fine. So hope you understood this thing, why subordination of women increased. Did you understand this thing? Can we move on? Very good, yeah. Fine. So 8th point done. If you talk more about the differences between early Vedic period and later Vedic period, and then I will show you the slides. First of all, understand this. Means question has been asked in 2024 based on this, and so many pre-question you can solve via these points, via option elimination. So if you talk about the 9th point, so what is the 9th point? So Verna system we have talked about. What about the gods or rituals and sacrifices? See, the importance of rituals and sacrifices, even if you talk about rituals and sacrifices, before that, what are the gods which are important in early Vedic period? So Indra, Agni, Varun, these are the gods which are very important in early Vedic period. And why these gods are very important? If you see these gods, they are mainly nature gods. And at that time, people were very scared of nature. They were not knowing like when the rain will come, or when flood happens, or when drought will happen. So they used to worship nature. Worship of nature was one concept, and they were scared of nature, and that's why you are seeing so many nature gods. By the time later Vedic period happened, 1000 to 600 BC, people have come to realize how nature happens, how different season happens, etc., etc. So these gods will lose some importance, and other gods will become important, like Prajapati. He is the creator, so he becomes important. So this is one point. Indra, Agni, Varun, here you will remember Prajapati. Other gods are also there, but these are the major figures, So if we talk about other points, rituals and sacrifices. What are rituals and sacrifices? In the previous lecture, we have talked about Swaha, like fire worshipping, Kali Bangan. We have talked about all those things. So this is one kind of a ritual. There are different kind of rituals which happens. Like I will give you example of 3 major rituals which used to happen a lot in ancient times. And what were those 3 major rituals? Let me just tell you those 3 major rituals. Oh, just a second. Yeah. So 3 major rituals were Ashwamedha, Vajapeya and Rajasuya. So if somebody asks you in prelims, they can easily give you a question based on like Ashwamedha, Vajapeya, Rajasuya, and they will give you the meaning of these sacrifices, and they will like arrange it in a like haphazard manner. Either you will have to arrange them, or you will have to say which of the pairs are correctly matched. Only one, only two. So let's say there are 3 major sacrifices which you have to keep in mind. Ashwamedha, Vajapeya, and then there is Rajasuya. So anybody has any idea about like these 3 sacrifices? What is the basic difference between Ashwamedha, Vajapeya and Rajasuya? Ashwamedha, Vajapeya and Rajasuya. So what happens? Ashwamedha, you may have an idea about it. That Ashwamedha, we may have seen it in so many serials also. That we have left a horse is going to, or let's say there is a king and he has left his horse. If he is passing through, that horse is passing through different territories, and no ruler of that particular territory is challenging the horse or stopping the horse. That means that particular territory has accepted the subordination of the king who has left his horse. If somebody catches that horse, he has to fight the guy or the king who has literally like left his horse. So Ashwamedha is that kind of a sacrifice or ritual. Vajapeya and Rajasuya. Ashwamedha was related to state expansion, like Vinay is saying, which is actually very true. Then what is Rajasuya? That is royal conscription. Royal conscription means, let's say one of you, like Vinay or Tashi or Pradeep, you become a king. So when you are becoming a king, there will be a grand event which will be happening, grand rituals which will be happening. That is Rajasuya. Now what is Vajapeya? So let's say your state is in a destabilized condition. So many things are going wrong in your state. So sometimes to make people make their minds wander, make them forget that there is nothing wrong with their issue, everything is like Changasi or everything is fine. So Vajapeya sacrifices used to be done by kings, which is actually like most common form of Vajapeya sacrifice was chariot racing. Chariot racing. So Ashwamedha, Vajapeya, Rajasuya, just remember it. Ashwamedha, you know it, most of you know it. Rajasuya, royal conscription, when you are becoming a king, that the ritual sacrifices, everything which is happening at that time. And Vajapeya is chariot racing, like simple kind of chariot racing, and in that lots of rituals and sacrifices will be involved. This is generally, or this was generally done by king to make the Praja or the citizens feel like everything is hunky-dory. Even in Gladiator movie, etc., you may have seen certain form of Vajapeya, but that was not exactly Vajapeya. Fine. So let's come back here. Let's come back to the comparative analysis part, and we will be showing the slides now, and we'll be seeing the slides now rather. So Indra, Agni, Varun, Prajapati. 10th point, rituals and sacrifices were not that important in early Vedic period. We are not saying it did not happen at all. We are just saying that the importance was less. Rituals, less. Ritual sacrifices, less. Yajnas, less. But rituals and sacrifices will increase many-fold. In fact, there will be certain rituals and sacrifices which will be done by only specific Brahmanas. One or two Brahmana will be knowing the exact procedure of that ritual or sacrifice. Some of the rituals and sacrifices will go on till 2 years or 3 years. That whole thing led to Brahmanical supremacy. And that whole thing led to, just give me a second, Brahmanical supremacy, because of which, what will happen? Brahmins, like as the name suggests, if only 1 or 2 Brahmins know how to do a particular ritual, they will become supreme, and the people who are lying below Brahmins in that particular Verna system order, they won't like it. So Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, they will not like it, and there will be a Brahmanical reaction against this Brahmanical supremacy, and around 64 heterodox sects will emerge. 64 heterodox sects will emerge around 6th century BC, out of which you know about Buddhism, Jainism, Charvaka, Ajivika, you know about them. We'll talk about them later on. So these are some points which you have to keep in mind. 10th point, let's talk about some more points. So let me erase the 7th point. Remember these points. Once, if you are able to remember these points, you have understood the basic gist of Vedic period. So if you talk about the 11th point, differentiating early Vedic period from later Vedic period. What is the 11th point? So taxes, if you talk about taxes per se, so taxes were not compulsory, non-compulsory. Taxes like Bali, Bhaga, Bhoga. So taxes non-compulsory. It was not like you have to pay the taxes. But taxes like Bali, Bhaga, Bhoga, non-compulsory. But taxes like Bali, Bhaga, Bhoga will become compulsory by the end of later Vedic period. Taxes like Bali, Bhaga, Bhoga. They can ask you these. What are these Bali, Bhaga, Bhoga? And they will give you that these are the names of your friend or your ex-girlfriend, blah, blah, blah. They are actually, those are wrong options. These are taxes. Bali, Bhaga, Bhoga. They became compulsory. So in a way, if we have to be a little bit critical about later Vedic period, we can say that in later Vedic period, people are becoming more and more materialistic. You can see in early Vedic period, community ownership concept was very dominant, or that was happening on a larger scale. Individual ownership gained traction, land became a precious commodity, all these things. You can see materialistic society, aspects of materialistic society you can see in later Vedic period. But again, we are nobody to judge anyone or like whatever floats their boat. Fine. So these are some points, and now let's see the slides. Just remember these points. This will help you in mains, pre, anywhere and everywhere. So again, here the chronology part, from where these people arrived. So there are two theories related to, just like we have talked about Indus Valley civilization, from where Indus Valley people arrived. And there are different theories related to it, that we have talked about the three theories, Sumerian origin, and then the Aryan origin, and the theory of gradual evolution. So there are two major theories related to this Aryan people, from where they arrived. The most accepted theory is from Central Asia they arrived. Now there is a homework for you people. In Central Asia, there are so many countries like Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, Tajikistan, so many stans are there, 5 stan if I am not wrong. You have to remember these 5 Central Asian countries' capital, plus you have to arrange them from north to south, east to west. Here, in a way, history and geography, or history and places in news are merging. You have to remember them. They are very tricky. Make a, like, write it somewhere, paste it on your wall, whatever you have to do, do it. Fine. So the major basic concept here is, people believe that these Aryans, they came from Central Asia or certain portion of Iran region, because the text, Iranian text, Avesta, etc., Avesta and the Rig Vedic text, they have lots of similarities. So many things have been cited to prove that Aryan people came from Central Asia or the present day Iran and Afghanistan region. That is what they are saying, different people are saying. Please understand one thing, when we talk about Central Asia in current scenario, that does not include Iran and Afghanistan. Central Asia in current scenario only involve 5 stans. Fine. You have to read about those 5 stans, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Turkmenistan, blah, 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 5 stans. Central Asia, when we talk about it in current scenario, it does not involve Iran and Afghanistan. They are not part of Central Asia. Don't mistake it like that. I'm just saying that Central Asia and Iran and Afghanistan region, that is a major observation, that from where Aryan people arrived. The second theory is no. They have not arrived from anywhere else. They are the people, these Aryan people are the ones who were originally the habitants of Indian subcontinent only. They have not arrived from anywhere outside. And what reason has been given for that particular theory? That let's say if they have come from Central Asia, if they have come from Iran, they would have talked something about their homeland. This is similar to, let's say, if you are from Arunachal Pradesh or you go to Delhi or something. So even if you have lived in Delhi for 50 years, you will talk something about Arunachal Pradesh. So that one logic, and they are saying that in Vedas, we are not seeing any references that, oh my God, in Iran, people were so good looking, so handsome, so cute, just like a wow. They are not talking about any such thing at all. So they were the indigenous people from, like, they have not come from anywhere. They are the indigenous people. But again, that theory is not accepted. This is the most accepted theory, that they have come from Central Asian region or Iran region per se. So please keep that in mind. Fine. So that's what they are saying, that there are so many words, especially in the Rig Vedic Samhita, which is written in the early Vedic period. Rest 15 parts have been written in the later Vedic period, and Iranian text Avesta, which shows that these people, they have arrived from the present day Iran region, etc., or the Central Asian region. It's like a case of reverse gypsies. Like, there were people who were there in the present day Rajasthan, Gujarat regions, and these were the gypsy people who later on migrated to Europe, and from there they migrated to North America, and now they are found anywhere and everywhere in the world. So the reverse gypsy case is the Aryan case, that these people, they came from outside, just like our people, gypsy people, they went to the other parts of the world. So keep that in mind, and rest part you can read. Fine. So again, the second theory, that no. See, Indus Valley people, they also used to live around the Sapta Sindhu region. These early Vedic period people, they are also living around the Sapta Sindhu region people. They are no different. They are same but different. No, they are not even same but different. They are exactly the same people. This is the second theory, indigenous origin theory. And what they are saying is, if they would have been from any other place, they would have talked about their homeland. There is an emotional association with your homeland, right? Just like people associate Bihar with litti chokha, right? If you are from Bihar, you have to eat litti chokha. So there is certain amount of association, but even then, Bihar, Chhat Puja, this and that, wherever you are, you have certain things. You have lemon rice. If you go to Hyderabad, you eat a lot of lemon rice. So again, emotional association. They should have talked something about their homeland. They haven't. And this is one very strong point to suggest that Aryan people were of indigenous origin. But this theory is not taken seriously. It needs some more points to put more weight in its favor. Then again, we have talked about all these things, that these early Vedic people, they were living around the Sapta Sindhu river. That's what they have written here in this slide. Plus they have given you the old name of these rivers. So Parushni and all those, you can have a look at this. Remember the old names. I will tell you the most important part where you have to focus more. And then in the end, we'll also solve some questions. So do ensure that you are solving like how many you are getting correct. And then there are different terms. Like they are saying Sapt Sindhu, Sapt Sandhava. So here Sapt means 7, Indus, 5 tributaries of Indus plus Saraswati and Ghaggar River. Aryavart, most of North India. And here also they will talk about Uttar Path, Dakshin Path, or Uttar Desha, Dakshin Desha, Madhya Desha, etc. So we have talked about Uttar Path and Dakshin Path earlier. What were Uttar Path and Dakshin Path? Any idea? Uttar Path, Dakshin Path. Any Ashwamedha was related to state expansion. Cool. Any idea what were Uttar Path and Dakshin Path? I will give you 10 more seconds and then I will tell you. But I am expecting some answers on these terms, Uttar Path and Dakshin Path. So Uttar Path, we have made a diagram like this. Let's say this is India, let's say this is Bengal. Route which is leading to the north, that is Uttar Path. And then route which is leading to the south, that is Dakshin Path. Fine. And who was known as Lord of Dakshin Path? These are factual information which we need to know from pre-perspective. Which kingdom was known as Lord of Dakshin Path? Uttar Path, Lord of North. Yeah, route leading to the north rather, Aarti. So which kingdom is called as Lord of Dakshina Path? That means they have acquired a major territory in this area. Any idea, anyone? That is, Lord of Dakshina Path was Satavahanas. You can go back to my sources lecture once this particular lecture is done. There we have talked about these small, like choti magar moti baatein, small but very important things. So Lord of Dakshina Path, Satavahanas. Lord of Uttar Path, many kingdoms have been given this particular term, Lord of Uttar Path. Many kingdoms in different eras, they acquired different parts of North India. But we have talked about in the sources lecture, there was a term, Saklottar Path Natha. Saklottar Path Natha. That means one who has conquered the north. Sakal Uttar Path Natha. So which ruler was called as Saklottar Path Natha? Which ruler was designated the term Saklottar Path Natha? Any idea? Saklottar Path Natha. He was Harshvardhana. Fine. Saklottar Path Natha. So these are some factual information. Just keep it in mind. And you never know where they will be asking you this. They have been asked a lot. So Aryavart, here you had the Uttar Path. Then you have Madhya Desh and Dakshin Path. So here you had the Dakshin Path only. So Uttar Path, Dakshin Path. Fine. Again, these are the things. I've just told you the important parts. I will tell you where to focus, where not to focus. So Smriti, Shruti. Shruti is Vedas. Smriti is Puranas. Puranas are in a way an interpretation of Vedas. They are not part of Vedas. Are Upanishad part of Vedas? Are Upanishad part of Vedas? Are they part of Vedas? Yes or no? Are Upanishad part of Vedas? What do you want to say about that? Yes. So Upanishad are part of Vedas. They are Vedanta, last part of the Veda. Now, let's talk something more about these terms. So what we have discussed here is that each Veda has 4 parts: Samhita, Brahmana, Aranyaka and Upanishad. They are explanations, right? So each Veda has 4 parts: Samhita, Brahmana, Aranyaka and Upanishad. So Samhita is, what is there in Samhita? Samhita, they contain hymns, right? Brahmana, right, they have explanation of hymns. Explanation of hymns. Then in Aranyaka, they have talked about rituals and sacrifices to a great extent, among other things, right? Aranyaka, rituals and sacrifices. And then comes the Upanishad part. So let me tell you something. So then Aranyaka and then Upanishad, which talks about Atman Brahman. So let's try to understand it in a other way. I will show you certain interesting thing. You have to understand these terms. These terms are important. So we have talked about like Ved, they have, or So there are terms here. One is called as Karm Kand. One is called as Karm Kand. Hope this color is visible to you. Karm Kand. Right. So in Karm Kand you have Samhita, you have Brahmana, and then you have Aranyaka. Samhita, Brahmana, Aranyaka. And then there is Gyan Kand. Gyan Kand. In Gyan Kand you have Upanishad. Let's try to understand this. Let's not try to mug it up anything. Some people say that some portion of Aranyaka is also there in Gyan Kand. So what is Karm Kand? So Karm Kand is talking about rituals and sacrifices, how important rituals and sacrifices are and how you have to do it if you want to attain nirvana, right? So when people started questioning these rituals and sacrifices, which had earlier led to Brahmanical supremacy, because there were certain sacrifices which could be done by only certain Brahmins, that led to Brahmanical supremacy. So later on what happened in Vedas, Upanishad was added to talk about Gyan Kand, that no. There were certain people who were like, bro, if I don't have money, I cannot spend money on rituals and sacrifices, does that mean I cannot attain nirvana? I cannot attain salvation? I cannot be nearer to God? I will not get moksha? So to answer those questions and to see that different heterodox sects are emerging, Buddhism, Jainism, etc., etc., the fourth part was added in Veda, which was known as Upanishad, which talks about Gyan Kand, which says, no, we are not saying that rituals and sacrifices are the only way to attain salvation. You have to focus on knowledge. You have to focus on Atman. You have to focus on Brahman. Atman is individual soul. Brahman is universal soul. And you will attain moksha, you will attain nirvana once your Atman merges with the Brahman. Atman, individual soul, Brahman, universal soul. And these kind of talks will happen when we will talk about Vedanta school also. So it's not needed that you do rituals and sacrifices, you do Swaha and Aha for 1 or 2 years. You understand, you gain knowledge, you understand how your Atman works, and you do yoga, you do meditation, you do this, you do that. Whatever way your Atman is merging with the Brahman, you will attain salvation. You will not come back to this earth again, because rebirth, like this whole life is a sorrow, is a suffering, is a form of suffering. There's a book also, Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, which says that life in 3 words is form of suffering. So we all are suffering. Someone is suffering in palaces, someone is suffering in villages, but the reality is we all are suffering. So if you want to get rid of this suffering, you have to attain nirvana so that you don't come back to this particular earth again. Again, let's not go that deep, because people like Sushant Singh Rajput, etc., they knew about this ultimate truth, and see what they have done. Huge fan of Sushant Singh Rajput, sir. So again, hope you're understanding what we are discussing here. Okay, just a second. Okay, I will use a darker color. So, are you understanding what Gyan Kand and what Upanishad is majorly talking about? That you don't need to focus only on rituals and sacrifices. If you don't want to do Karm Kand, if you don't want to focus on ritual sacrifices, hymns, etc., fine bro, focus on Atman and Brahman. Focus on your individual soul and universal soul. Did you understand this? You just have to gain a basic idea. Most of you don't have history optional, so you don't have to do PhD here. And basic understanding would do that. What is Karm Kand? What comes under Karm Kand? What comes under Gyan Kand? Why Upanishad is called Vedanta? These are the important facts which you have to keep in mind. Did I make myself clear? Can we move on? Fine. So here, hope you understood the different parts of the Vedas. So there can be different questions which can be asked. UPSC has earlier asked on what does Rig Veda talks about, what does Sam Veda talks about, what does Yajur Veda and Athar Veda talks about. They can also ask you this question. What does Samhita talks about? What does Brahmana talks about? What does Aranyaka talks about? And what does Upanishad talks about? So you have to understand this Karm Kand and Gyan Kand. Now, if we talk about these Vedas per se, Rig Veda, they have hymns and subordination of women. When we're talking about subordination of women, that subordination of women increased in later Vedic period. It is understood from certain examples also that in later Vedic texts, that is the 15 parts of 4 Vedas, there are hymns that, hey God, please give me a boy as a child, we don't want girls. So these kind of hymns, they show in a way subordination of women. So again, so Rig Veda, they have hymns. Sham Veda, music. Which kind of music? Ashik banaya aapne? No, not that kind of a music, but yes, music which will touch your heart. So Yajur Veda, again, rituals and sacrifices are mentioned there. Athar Veda, magical charms and spells. Fine. So these things, keep it in mind because they have asked questions on this. So Rig Veda, collection of different hymns. Sham Veda, you have music which will touch your soul. Some people may argue that, sir, what is wrong with Ashik Banaya Aapne? Himesh Sheshamya songs also touch our soul. So whatever touch your soul, like you may have your own playlist to which you vibe. So again, you are like in Sham Veda, you are like fulfilling the prophecies of Sham Veda, music. Yajur Veda, rituals and sacrifices are there. Athar Veda, magical charms and spells. That bhash marunga or you will be like going here and there. Ud jaoge tum. There are certain phrases like that in Hindi. So magical charms and spells. Pseudoscience is also there. So let me go into a little controversial area. So astrology and astronomy. Out of astrology and astronomy, which according to you is a pseudoscience? Or do you think, sir, no, sir, both are like awesome science? Don't say that. Don't break our heart. So astrology and astronomy, which is a pseudoscience, according to you? Astrology, astronomy, anyone having any idea? Astronomy. Astrology. Astrology is a pseudoscience, magical charms and spells. So these are one-liners, keep it in mind. And again, each Veda we have talked about these, Samhita, Brahmana, Aranyaka, Upanishad, what they are. So you can now look at this. We have done all the major portion of this Vedic text. So we'll try to see what else we have left. Early and later Vedic period, the time period where they were settling, we have done a comparative analysis. We have talked about 10, 11 points. Those points you have to keep in mind. You cannot forget those points. Fine. Then where they were located, we have done a comparative analysis in exam. I'm talking about mains. In pre, you will be able to solve maximum questions on Vedic period now. So in mains, if possible, when you are making or doing a comparative analysis, like they have asked this question in UPSC Mains 2024, try to make a map. Try to make a map of North India, show where early Vedic people were living, where later Vedic people were later settled on in Gangetic plains. So you can make a map, you can show these places. Fine. We have talked about this. Let's move on. Early Vedic period economy, we have talked about the word pastoralist and wars were fought over cattle according to Rig Vedic Samhita. Now, here there are certain words. Go means cow. We know this. We still say Go Mata, you know. So there are certain terms here. They can ask you, what is a Gomat? What is a Duhitri? A girl who is milking the cow. Who is a Gaveshna? Who is searching for the cows? I think Pradeep was saying it in the comment section. Even the kings are known from like how many cattle you have. Gopati. Even in like Gaon, in villages, if you go there, in current days, you're not known from your cattle per se. In some villages you do, but somewhere in certain areas you're known via how many hectares or acres of land you have, and in some villages you're also known by how many cattle you have. So this particular system is still prevalent in certain areas, and that was used to happen in early Vedic period. We have talked about it, that they were pastoralist. It doesn't mean that there was complete absence of agriculture here. No. They were doing agriculture. Agriculture has already started around 6000, 7000 BC in Mehergarh. We have talked about it. Wheat, cotton cultivation. And again, here you will hear like about different terms. One term is Yava, one term is Vrihi, other term is Godhuma. Anybody having any idea what is Yava, what is Vrihi, what is Godhuma? If you don't know about it, like these are the terms associated with barley, wheat and rice. So from exam perspective, you need to know Yava corresponds to what, Vrihi corresponds to what, which crop they are talking about, Godhuma corresponds to what. Similarly here, who are Gomat, Who is Duhitri? Who is Gaveshna? Who is Gopati? Gopati you can deduce. Even Duhitri you can deduce. Gomat and Gaveshna. These are the words where you can fumble. Gomat and Gaveshna. So pay attention to these specific words. These are important. Astrology, as most of the people are talking about pseudoscience in the chat section. Cool. So agriculture, Yava is barley as it is written here. These terms are important. They can give you these terms in exam. Yava, Vrihi, Godhuma, and they will tell you to match it. Now the next question is Vrihi and Godhuma. Which one is rice? Which one is wheat? Fine. And again, the concept of private property, we have talked about different kinds of properties or private property concept or individual ownership, royal ownership, community ownership. We have talked about all these terms. Fine. And again here, IAS. For iron, they used to, like Aya was a word which was generally used for metals. Krishna Aya. When they talk about Krishna Aya, Krishna is black. Generally, there is a debate, very famous debate related to Krishna Bhagwan, Krishna God, that Krishna means black. Krishna Bhagwan was actually black, blackish by complexion. And in different movies or serials, they show him like, you know, so white and everything, which is not true. Even black people can be beautiful. Why are you stereotyping everything? This is such a racist mindset, to be honest. So again, so Krishna means black, Krishnaya, and everyone is beautiful. Look at the soul. And even if you look, again, let's not go there, but hope you're understanding this. So if they give this term Krishnaya, it means iron. But sometime at this particular period, iron, especially when we come to later Vedic period, iron will become so important that sometimes when they are even saying Aya, it is meaning Krishnaya. But in exam, they will not think of you like that. You have to understand Aya is metal. Krishnaya, when they're specifically saying, that is iron. So please keep that in mind. Fine. Again, have a look at this slide. I'm not reading it. City life, there is no city life per se in early Vedic period. At the end of the later Vedic period, because they are now living in Gangetic plains, which is again not one of the most fertile area in India. It is one of the most fertile areas in the world. So that will lead to surplus production, and at the end of later Vedic period, around 600 BCE, towns will emerge, which will be second urbanization. Fine. So that you have to keep in mind. Nagara is not there. Do we have any temples? Did we find any temples in Vedic period? Take a guess. Temples in Vedic period, yes or no? Temples in Vedic period. And we are talking about both the periods, early and later Vedic period. Did we find any temples in early and later Vedic period? Temples, temples, temples. Any temples? No, no temples. When, like, the answer is no. Earliest evidence of temple construction in Indian subcontinent. When? When did we find? Very good, here Aarti, Marina, Guru Raj, Tashi, everyone is saying no. So when did we find earliest evidence of temple construction in Indian subcontinent? What is the answer? Earliest evidence, no temple in Vedic period, no temple, no temple. This is 1000 to 6, like 1500 to 600 BCE. Earliest evidence of temple construction, what we have discussed earlier. When did we find the earliest evidence of temple construction? Gupta period, as George, oh my god, the name is very interesting. Giorgio Polo. Okay. Gupta period, Guru Raj. So Gupta period we find the earliest evidence of temple construction, and that was Panchayatan style. We will have a separate lecture on temple architecture, so don't worry about it. We have talked about Panchayatan style also, that you have in Panchayatan style, you have main shrine and then you have subsidiary shrines. One main god and 4 not so main gods, secondary gods. So when your mother is taking you to this Panchayatan style temple, she will first go to subsidiary shrines and then later on she will go to main shrine, or vice versa. Again, it depends on your mother, how she chooses it. Choose means what is her preference. We are nobody to comment on that, right? So main shrine, subsidiary shrines, Panchayatan style. We'll talk more about it when we are talking about Nagara, Dravida, Vishra style, and there are also different sub-classifications. Fine. Okay, so later Vedic period economy, iron has come, Krishnaya, other like gold etc. has been there. Was gold there in Harappa? Did Harappan people know about gold? What do you want to say? Yeah, Gupta period is the correct answer. Did Harappan people know about gold? Yes or no? So Darshana is saying no. Harappan people did not know about gold. What about other people? What are you saying? Did they know about gold or not? So stupa and statue are not considered to worship place but not as temple, yes. And stupas you will not have right now. Stupas you will have once like Buddhism comes into picture. Like stupas you can say even they have Hinduism, like origin in Hinduism, because they have asked question on stupa this year. So yes, but yeah, that is not considered as temple. Temple will be there. The Panchayatan style is the earliest precursor of temple construction, Tashi. Yeah, they are not considered as temple. So we have talked about this. People who have, like, you can go back and see the Harappan lecture of IVC lecture, the previous lecture. KGF Goldfields. KGF, your favorite movie, with such high or loud background noise. KGF, yes. So they did know about gold, and they were having, like, they were doing trade with the Kolar Goldfields also. We have talked about this. You can have a look at the IVC lecture once this lecture is done. Fine. So iron Krishnaya, this is a very important term. You cannot forget this term. You have to keep in mind this particular term. Then later Vedic period economy, they are talking about land is so important now. So because Gangetic period, again, I will not reiterate that same line. So agriculture is getting importance. That does not mean in early Vedic period people were not doing agriculture. Agriculture was happening, but pastoralism was the predominant activity. And that's what they are saying. And again, Lord of the Plow, you can see how important iron tools, etc. is becoming. And we'll see something more related to God Indra in just few moments from now. So iron tools has been used to clear the forest land. We have talked about it. And then again, painted graveware pottery has been found here. What is the mnemonic for pottery? Other people who have watched my previous lecture, we have talked about a chronology of pottery. That what pottery came first, what pottery came later on. We have to understand this. I'm just telling you the most important parts. The rest slides you can read. My purpose is to give you conceptual clarity. My purpose is not to read line from slide, like line by line. I have to give you conceptual clarity. What is the mnemonic for pottery? BOPN, as Guru Raj is saying. Black and red ware, that was the mnemonic. BOPN. Again, you can go back to the previous lecture, lecture 2, Chalcolithic and IVC. So black and red ware around 2400 BC. Ochre colored pottery around 2000 to 1000 BC. These are around figures, approximate figures. Painted grey ware 1000 to 600 BC. And then you have northern black polished ware, which is like from 600 BC to 100 AD or 700 BC to 200 AD, something like that. So again, dates are not important. The chronology is important. Painted grey ware, you will find it in the later Vedic period. So that you have to remember. And again, you are finding something similar to towns. Towns will happen at the end of the later Vedic period. Now, this is a very, very interesting slide. Very interesting slide. Again, we have talked about, when we were talking about sources, we have talked about numismatics. What is numismatics? What is numismatics? Any idea what is numismatics? And there is a very interesting question for you people. You have to think about it. It's not like I will give you everything on a platter. The more you think, the better you will become in history. Numismatic is BOPN. So many people have answered. BOPN is the chronology of pottery. So Guru Raj, Tashi, Darshana, Aarti. Study of coins, as Aarti said. Numismatic is study of coins. Again, if you go back to the sources lecture, which was lecture 1, sources in Stone Age. So we have talked about the earliest coins, that was punch mark coins, which were made of silver. UPSC has already asked a PYQ on that, punch mark coin silver. Then here we are talking about coins, and punch mark coin silver, we have talked about this thing happened in Mahajanpada period, which will happen after Vedic period. Then how come we are talking about currency in later Vedic period? Again, in UPSC prelims, there is a very high probability they will ask you, Krishnala, Satmana and Nishka are what? They are the names of your ex-girlfriend, or they are the names of your, like, you know, whatever. They are different things. They are like different kind of feudal system, etc., etc. They are coinage system prevalent during later Vedic period. Now the question for you, when we talk about, and this is not only me, even if you have read history from other places, you must have heard this, that the earliest like coins we talk about is punch mark coins found in Mahajanpad period, and they were made of silver. So is this a lie? Because before punch mark coins, we have Krishnala, Satmana and Nishka. So how come? Hope you're understanding the contradiction. Ideally, when we are talking about earliest coin, we should be talking about Krishnala, Satmana and Nishka, which were prevalent during the later Vedic period, which were coins, many people believe coins or gold bars associated with gold or coins. So why we did not say that the earliest coins were Krishnala, Satmana and Nishka? Why we keep on talking about Panchmark coins? This is a very, very, very important question. If you're able to answer this question, and if you understood the answer of this question also, you'll be like, oh my god, this is such a like brain opener for me, if that is a word. Please, please, please try it out. Try it out. Why we said Panchmark coins were the earliest coins? Why not Krishnala, Satmana and Nishka when these coins were there earlier? Why we did not say that these were the earliest coins, Krishnala, Satmana and Nishka? What do you have to say about that? Take a guess. Any guess would do. But think. You have to think. See. I will give you last 10 seconds and then I will say. Okay, so Darshana is saying they were not distributed by treasury. See, the term was earliest surviving coins. The coins which we have an evidence of. Surviving coins. We got the evidence of these. These are mentioned in Vedic text. Krishnala, Satmana and Nishka. We have not found any remains of them. When we talk about earliest surviving coins, that's why we talk about Panchmark coins, because we have got the remains of Panchmark coins. These coins which were, or if they were coins, they happened earlier, but we do not have any surviving remains. So many people believe these were gold coins or gold bars which were prevalent during later Vedic period. So they can ask you, Krishnala, Satmana and Nishka were gold coins or gold bars prevalent during later Vedic period. Are you understanding now why we said that the earliest surviving coins were Panchmark coins? Because we have not got any physical, tangible evidence of these coins, Krishnala, Satmana, Nishka. Am I clear? This is a very important part. This is a very important slide. You have to understand this. If you're not understanding this, then that is a problem. This is very important. Most of the people will not tell you this. Can I move now? Let's go. So hope I made sense here. Hope you understood what we just discussed. Fine. So now again, religion part, we have talked about it, that in early Vedic period, people were afraid of nature, right? Afraid of nature, Indra, Agni, Varun, etc. were major god. That's what it is written here. You can have a look at it. And early Vedic period religion, no temples, no temples, no temples, no temples. There will be no temples. When we will come to Gupta period, we will see temples. Later Vedic period, religion changes, and then agriculture is the primary means occupation. Now people know something about nature. They are not that worried or scared of nature. So Prajapati, the creator, he becomes the primary deity. Fine. Yajna sacrifices, they are increasing. Materialistic things are increasing. Brahmanical supremacy will increase. These Ashwamedha, Vajapaya, Rajasuya, we have talked about it. All these sacrifices will increase, and there will be a reaction against this Brahmanical supremacy in the form of Buddhism, Jainism, etc., which will happen in 6th century BC. We'll talk about it. Fine. Later Vedic period religion, etc., they are talking about material reason, materialistic. Again, you can have a look at it. I'm not reading it. We'll focus on the important part. Priest becoming more specialist, Brahmanical supremacy they are talking about. Again, no temples also in later Vedic period. Pay attention to the most important part. We have already talked about the gist portion in the previous portions when we're doing a comparative analysis. That comparative analysis portion, you have to watch it multiple times, 6 times, 7 times, till the time you understand each and every point. Fine. Then early Vedic versus later Vedic rituals. Rituals are not that important in early Vedic society. They will become more and more important when we'll come to later Vedic period. You can have a look at it. They have given some examples here. And here, why this slide is there, in the later Vedic period, you will see the tribes. These were tribal people, and there was the concept of chiefs or group of people who were acting as chiefs. So later on, these in later Vedic period, they will become hereditary in nature, that my son will become a chief or something. There are 2 concepts related to it, primogeniture and coparcenary inheritance. This is important, you have to pay attention here. Primogeniture, copercinary inheritance. NCERT has talked about these terms, so we should be knowing about these terms. They will keep on coming even in the later part of the lectures also. Primogeniture, copercinary inheritance. So what is the difference between primogeniture and copercinary inheritance? What do you think is the difference between primogeniture and copercinary inheritance? So primogeniture means, let's say I die and I was the chief. So after my death, my eldest son, he will become the ruler. Eldest son will become the ruler. And copercinary inheritance is when I die and let's say I have 4 sons. So the property will be equally divided among the 4 sons. That is copercinary inheritance. So again, we will talk about this whole concept when we'll talk about Mughals, etc. Which kingdom had primogeniture concept, which kingdom has copercinary inheritance concept, and these terms are important. So you have to keep it in mind. So again, the whole thing where people or the tribal chief wants to show himself as superhuman, that happened via these rituals. Let's say there are some rituals which will take 2 years to happen. That will involve a lot of money. Not everybody can invest that amount of money. Via doing that particular ritual, via spending that amount of money, he is showing that he is above other mortal humans. He is superhuman. And he is saying to others that kabhi kabhi lagta hai that he is the god. Fine. So again, these things are happening, materialistic things are happening, that's what we have discussed. Again, society in the initial part, early Vedic period society, you can see it was comparatively, we said, the condition was better, the condition of women was not bad, subordination was there, Verna system was not firmly established, there are different Ganas and Graminis, there are different words, you can have a look at it. The most important part is the society. Here there are different terms, Aryavarna and Dasavarna. In current society, when we talk about Dasavarna, in current society, when we are talking about dasas, here we mean slave. But here in Vedic period, when they talk about dasa, they are talking about non-Aryans. It's like Hitler's term. Again, we are not comparing it with Hitler. Again, Hitler used to compare, we are the pure race, etc., etc. I'm just telling you an example. This is not at all same with the Hitler classification. Aryavarna and Dasavarna. Das has nothing to do with slavery per se. Das is non-Aryans in this scenario. Fine. And again, they are given you differentiation was not sharp. Early Vedic period we have discussed. Varna system reference we find in Purusha Shukta hymn of Rig Vedic Samhita. But this Varna system will become firmly established in later Vedic period. When Varna system will become firmly established, even the occupation will become firmly established. That if you are a Shudra, there are certain designated works that you have to do. But in early Vedic period, society was very fluid. And that you can understand from this particular quote also. I am a poet, my father is a physician, my mother is a grinder, earning a livelihood through different means will live together. That shows there is so much fluidity. And we have discussed that in later Vedic period and after that time, the condition of Sudras and women are deteriorating. Sudras, we have read the quote also that Shudra is at the beck and call of others, Shudra can be made to rise at will, Shudra can be beaten at will. And if we talk about the quotes related to women, we have talked about that there are hymns in later Vedic texts which talks about having a son as a child. And then there are other quotes also in other texts that women should be punished periodically so that she doesn't harbor any evil thoughts. So these kind of quotes, they show the degrading condition of women. You don't have to write it in exam. I'm just telling you so that you can understand how the condition was deteriorating. Fine. Later Vedic period society, Gotra developed the concept of Gotra. Even these days, let's say you want to get married, you find a girl, you like that girl, and then you realize you are brothers and sisters because you are of the same Gotra. So this thing had its genesis in the later Vedic period. So because of which I'm not getting married these days because of this Gotra system. But yes, we have to respect it. So restrictions on women appeared. We have discussed this in comparative analysis that subordination of women increased in the later Vedic period. That's what they are saying. You can have a look at it. Upnayan Sanskar, Dvija, literally the rebirth, that thing Shudras were not entitled to. There is a Janeu ceremony also where you have this particular, a thread which you wear on your body. So that thing was not allowed to Shudras. After that, even when you have this particular Janeu we said, you can get married and all those things. Before that, you cannot. So Shudras were not allowed to do that. Now let's come and solve this particular question and then we'll talk about something more. You have this question in front of you, try to solve it. So the religion of early Vedic Aryans was primarily of. What is the answer? Bhakti, image worship, worship of nature and yajnas, worship of nature and bhakti. Okay, I've got the answer. One answer, two answer. Okay, so it is worship of nature is there. We know they were very scared of nature and that's why they were worshipping Indra, Agni, Varun. So option elimination if we do, we know nature worshipping has to be there. Now you are left with C and D. Yajnas was there. Sacrifices were there. We are saying it was not happening on a larger scale. It was happening but on a minuscule scale. But this yajnas and sacrifices will become more important in later Vedic period. And Ashwamedha, Vajapaya, Rajasuya and other sacrifices. There will be some sacrifices which will be going on for years. There will be certain specialized Brahmin, one or two Brahmin who will be knowing the whole procedure. This thing will lead to Brahminical supremacy and there will be a reaction against this Brahminical supremacy, and Buddhism, Jainism and some other heterodox sects will emerge. Around 64 heterodox sects emerge in 6th century BC. We'll talk about it. So the answer is worship of nature and yajnas. Fine. So they are doing havan karenge, havan karenge. Havan is also one form of yajna. And again here they are talking about the polity part. Early Vedic period, tribes were there. Sabha, Samiti, Vidhata, Parishad was there. These terms are important. Sabha means the people who are very important, the great men who are meeting. Samiti means all people are meeting. Women are allowed in Samiti. And then there are Vidhata and Parishad. There is a very high probability that UPSC will not ask you questions from Vidhata and Parishad, but you still should be knowing about it. So Vidhata, it is meant for secular, religious and military purpose. Women are allowed here also. Although they would not be allowed for military purpose, they will be coming for secular and religious purpose mainly. And Parishad is Sovereign General Assembly, where if there is some very extreme case which has happened, so they will be called via cattle drum that come, we need to have a talk. So Samiti and Vidhata, women, here also, even in these urgent matters, women were not called. That also shows that the subordination of women, even in early Vedic period, it was there. If we talk about exam perspective, prelims perspective, Sabha and Samiti, please keep these 2 points in mind. Even if you forget Vidhata and Parishad, that's fine. But don't forget Sabha and Samiti. Sabha, more important people. Samiti, everyone is there. Women is also allowed. Fine. And then early Vedic society, hereditary but elected. And again here we have talked about primogeniture and copercenary inheritance. Don't forget those words. Primogeniture, eldest child is becoming the tribal chief. Copercenary inheritance, property, or if you are the king, that whole thing will be divided. If you have 4 sons, it will be divided among 4 sons. That is copercenary inheritance. Humayun tried to do that after Babur died, but that had other issues. We'll talk about what Humayun tried to do and how it was related to copercenary inheritance. We'll have a discussion on that when we talk about Mughals. Fine. Bali, Bhaga, Bhoga, we have talked about taxes. It was non-compulsory during the time of early Vedic period. When you will go to later Vedic period, these things will become, it means compulsory by nature. And all these kings, they want to like become the tribal chief. He wants to have a, hereditary succession and all those things. Again, materialistic society where values are eroding to a certain extent, you can say. Divine nature of kingship. This will also remind you of Balban. When we'll talk about Balban in Delhi Sultanate, he will also say that he is a, incarnation of God or something like that. So these kind of things are happening. All in all, if somebody asks you, or if you read this particular chapter again and again, you will realize that early Vedic period was comparatively better off as compared to later Vedic period. Fine. Rajasuya, Vajapaya, these things we have talked about. And Bali, Bhaga, Shukla, Bhoga, they can ask you this. What are these? These are taxes. Again, we have talked about this earlier. Now, this is a question, a PYQ question, history optional PYQ. Again, why I have taken a history optional PYQ today as well, so that you get more conceptual clarity when it comes to Vedic period and Harappan period, and that will help you in option elimination. Option elimination fails majorly because we don't have basic clarity on certain subjects. We try to mug up subject, but when you solve these kind of mains questions, history optional questions, then you develop a conceptual clarity that what was happening when and what is the chronology associated with it, what are the different things which has happened. So this is a question. Critically examine various views regarding Vedic-Harappan relationship in light of recent discoveries or latest discoveries. So there are different parts. This is a critically examine. Any question which is critically examined, you have to criticize it. So any question in mains, you have to write an introduction, you have to write a conclusion. So here you have to write views and then you have to write criticism. So Vedic-Harappan relationship, what are the different views associated to it? So first thing first, one major thing related to Vedic-Harappan relationship is that Aryan invasion led to decline of Harappa, and that theory was proposed by Ram Prasad Chanda and in 1920s, and that proposal got a further boost in 1940s by Mortimer Wheeler. He also said that Aryan people invasion led to the decline of IVC. Fine, these are the views. And then they gave certain evidences. Certain evidences were discovered recently as well. So what were the different evidences? Like we talked about in the previous lecture, we have talked about skeletons. That skeletons were found in Mohenjo-daro. Skeletons were found in Mohenjo-daro. So that has been used as an evidence that maybe Aryan invasion led to those massacres at Mohenjo-daro. Then they say that in Vedic text there is a mention of a place called Haryupiya. Haryupiya. In Vedic text there is a mention of a word called Haryupiya. And many people believe that this is Harappa, Haryupiya. Then they say that Purandara, they talk about Purandara, there is a god, Indra, they call him Purandara, destroyer of the forts. There is a mention of this word. And again, how it will help you in pre, they will ask you, destroyer of the forts was, who was called destroyer of the forts? Purandara, who is Indra. So please extract information from here. So these are the things which are being cited or taken as example to prove that Purandara, destroyer of the forts, and these forts like Harappan towns were fortified. So in a way, when they are talking about forts, they are talking about Harappan towns, and when they are talking about destroyers, they are talking about Aryan people, and those people who destroyed Harappan towns, they were revered as Purandara, or they were revered equally as Indra god. So these are the things. Again, Purandara, Haryupiya, these evidences have been cited along with skeletons which has been found in Mohenjo-daro to prove that Aryan invasion happened. Then what is the criticism? The criticism is nowhere in the Vedic text explicitly it is written that these people led to the decline of, or Aryan people led to the decline of Harappan civilization. Skeletons which you found in Mohenjo-daro, they belong to different time periods. They are not of the same time period. It's like some skeleton is of mine, some skeleton is of my great granddaughter or something like that. So I have died in different time period, bro, and my whatever his pota, parpota, whatever he was, he died in a different time period. So maybe something else happened. You cannot attribute it to Aryan invasion. Maybe they died in different periods because of natural causes, or maybe some dacoits or bandits, they came from the nearby areas and they did the massacre in different periods. Then it is also said that Harappan towns, they do not decline all of a sudden at the same time. No, different cities have different rates of decline. So all these factors plus Max Muller says that there is a time lag, bro. There is a time lag. Harappan civilization started declining by 1900-1800 BC. The first evidence of in these early Vedic period, you find it around 1500 BC. So there is a time lag of around 300-400 years. So we cannot say that Aryan invasion was the cause of Harappan decline. So these are some points which you have to write in this particular question, and when you are writing these points, you are developing conceptual clarity which you will be using to eliminate option in your prelims. They can even give you this particular question that Aryan invasion theory was proposed by they will give you some other name apart from Ram Prasad Chanda and Mortimer Wheeler. So that's how you have to extract information. Even now we know IVC is in news because of Tamil Nadu CM $1 million announcement. So anything related to IVC etc. is becoming important now. Then what is important from prelims perspective? What is destroyer of the forts? Who is known as destroyer of the forts? Purandara. That is god Indra. They will give you that Agni was known as destroyer of the forts, or Varun was known as destroyer of the forts. So you have to be very aware. Fine. Cool, we have talked about all these things. What are the views? Haryupiya. They can give you this. Haryupiya refers to which town, or according to scholars, it refers to which town of Indus Valley. etc., etc. Then skeletons at Mohenjo-daro, we have talked about this. So these are some views which has been given to prove Aryan invasion theory. Since it is a critically examined question, you have to talk about the criticism part. And again here, from here you will extract some information that these skeletons are of different periods and there is no evidence of any military assault. They may have died because of natural causes or because of some bandit attack from nearby areas. Then decline has happened at different times. This is again giving you a conceptual clarity. Not all Harappan cities decline at the same time, right? Different period of decline is there. There is also a time lag according to Max Muller, 400-500 years time lag between the decline of IVC and the arrival of Vedic people. Fine. So again, this is what they have written. We have discussed about this. And hence there is a need for closer examination. So via this history optional question, your concept is getting clearer of Indus Valley civilization and Harappan civilization, and that is what is needed. Now let's solve this PYQ. So national motto of India, Satyamev Jayate, inscribed below the emblem of India, is taken from fast. Okay, so Marina, Aarti, Bulbul, Gururaj. Answer is Mundak Upanishad. So Satyamev Jayate has been taken from Mundak Upanishad. See, understand one thing. The work is not done yet. UPSC will not directly ask this question again. They have done this. Which of the following places associated with Buddha? They ask the same question twice, but that is an exception, not a norm. We have discussed this, that if Upanishad is a part of Veda, yes, it is a part of Veda. So all these Upanishad has to be part of some Veda. Your homework is, Mundak Upanishad, if I am not wrong, it is a part of Athar Veda. Your homework is find out Kat Upanishad, Chandogya Upanishad, Aitareya Upanishad, part of which Vedas. Then once you have done this, you have done this question entirely. That's how you break a question. That's how you study a UPSC PYQ. You just don't see the answer and that's it. No. You have to delineate the option. Next time they will ask something from Kat Upanishad or Chandogya or Aitareya Upanishad. Or they can directly ask you, Chandogya Upanishad is a part of which Veda? So this is your homework. Answer is D, Mundak Upanishad. Fine. And Mundak Upanishad is part of Athar Veda. Each Upanishad, they have to be part of some Veda or the other. What is the answer of this question? Which of the following 4 Vedas contain an account of magical charms and spells? Which one of the following 4 Vedas contain an account of magical charms and spells? Cool. So Marina has given the answer and that is the correct answer. Athar Veda contains an account of magical charms and spells. Sam Veda is music. Rig Veda is hymns. Yajur Veda is rituals. Fine. So you can have a look at it. See this question asked in 2017. With reference to the difference between the culture of Rig Vedic Aryans and Indus Valley people, which of the following statement is correct? What is the answer of this question? I have not got any answer up until now. Okay, so Vinay has given the answer. We have discussed this earlier that Indus Valley people, they did not know about iron. They know about most of the metals except iron. So second statement is wrong. If you eliminate second statement, you are left with A and C. You don't even have to check for one, you have to check for third. Rig Vedic people had domesticated horse, there is no evidence. And UPSC has given the answer C, that is 1 and 3 only. So you have to take the answer as C, which has, like, most of you have given the answer. So one thing you may have deduced by now, that based on the different answers, that UPSC does not believe there was any horse in IVC. So you have to stick with that particular logic. You don't have to apply your own logic here, because we have so many evidences to prove this and that, right? We have discussed this in the last part. But again, as this ma'am is saying, this is actually debatable. This particular question is debatable. Horse was there or not, that is debatable. Let's talk about some practice questions. Solve this question. Nosado and IVC site is located closest to. And this we have done in the previous lecture. So if you have done the IVC lecture, you should be knowing about this. We have a discussion related to Nosado. Okay. I think I've got the answer. Most of you have given the answer. That is Mehergarh. Fine. So you can have a look at these maps. We have done this question also, New World and Old World. Let's revise it and let's apply the logic which I have told you in the previous class. Let's do it fast. Which one of the following groups of plants was domesticated in the New World and introduced into the Old World? What is the answer of this question? Tashi has given the answer. We have discussed this. New World is Americas, North America and South America, and Old World is Asia, Africa and Europe. We have discovered the Americas, like Europeans have discovered the Americas, so they called it the New World, but it was there, like always it was there. But again, hope you're understanding what I'm saying. And here, how we have eliminated the answer, we have said that Mehergarh, earliest evidence of agriculture in Indian subcontinent, and there we have seen wheat and cotton cultivation. So wheat and cotton was already there in the Old World from time immemorial, 6000, 7000 BC. So why do we need it from New World? So eliminate all the options which has cotton and wheat and you will get the answer, that is tobacco, cocoa and rubber. So that's what we have discussed yesterday. You can have a look at the IVC lecture also, fine. So you don't need to read world history to solve that question. That was what we have concluded from that particular question. Have a look at this particular question also. So you have different places and their significance. Place significance: Lothal, Chanhudadu, Dhaulavira, Ropar. Again, people who have not watched the IVC video, go and watch the IVC video of yesterday's. We have discussed this Chanhudadu, which is in Pakistan. They do not have citadel. If you would have known this B4 thing, you would have solved the question. Even if you had not known anything about the other three sides, you would have got the answer. Then Dhaulavira, it also has Middletown. That also we have discussed yesterday. So C is 1. So answer is D, A3, B4, C1, D2. Then you in Lothal as well as Kalibangan, you have found fire altars. And Ropar is on Satluj River, Punjab, Roopnagar. So that is the point here. Revise whatever you have done earlier rather than reading something new. Revise what we have done earlier and solve as many mocks as possible and you will clear prelims. If you don't, tell me whatever you want to tell me. But again, if you're following whatever I'm saying diligently. So again, these things we have discussed in the previous lecture. So that's it for today. I'll meet you tomorrow. Tomorrow is a very tricky lecture which is related to Mahajanpadas and Mauryans. Most of the people, they mug up the facts related to those parts. Different Mahajanpadas, we have to remember all the 16 Mahajanpadas. UPSC can ask questions from any of the Mahajanpadas. Most of the people know about Magadha, so we have to focus on other Mahajanpadas and then Mauryan Empire and then some important facts related to them. So that will also be a good lecture, a long lecture, but a fruitful lecture. Fine. So I'll see you people tomorrow. Take care. Be blessed. Tata. Bye-bye.